Thank you so much, Lisa. And hello and welcome, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm just so thrilled, excited and blessed. So if I stumble and tumble over my tongue, I apologise now. This is my very first time of doing something like this, which is somewhat slightly different to going live on Facebook. But yeah, it's just wonderful to be here. And the essence of what I want to talk about, I called my talk The Empty Suitcase. And the empty suitcase is how the major part of my journey working with angels began. But just to set the scene a little bit, in my late teens, early 20s, I met and married at a very young age, had a very toxic and abusive relationship through those few years that I was married. And during that time, I had an incident which I now recognise as being angelically inspired, but my life was saved. And I then left that relationship, moved on, and met my second husband, which was all, I believe, divinely guided and inspired. I'd made plans to go and work abroad, and at the very last minute, I listened, I suppose, unknowingly at the time to my intuition and decided not to go. And within 2 weeks of staying and changing my job, moving into a different job, I met the man who was soon to become my husband, but not at that moment. We journeyed through our lives. We went separate ways for a few years, and then we came back together. And we had 12 beautiful, amazing, blessed years together. We had 2 sons. We moved to a different city, and this is where I reside now, which is a place called Hull in the north of England. And I've been here on and off for over 30 years. And I say on and off because I took a little bit of a break and went and moved to the south of England for a couple of years, and then came back to here 5 or 6 years ago. And again, all of that was divinely flowing and inspired. But the empty suitcase was born as a story from that relationship. We had, as I said, 12 years together. And then for 18 months to 2 years of those last 12 years, my husband became unwell. And throughout the 18 months, we tried to get to the bottom of it with various different doctors, various different diagnoses, and nothing seemed to be coming to fruition. And then there was a point where he became really ill. He was rushed to hospital. We thought he was going to die. And the doctor that saw him asked him a question and said, I believe you've got this condition called acute diabetic neuropathy. He was a diabetic from the age of 11, so he had all of that and knew all about that. But he didn't realise that the acute neuropathy was what he was what he was suffering with. So the upshot was that he got treated, he became well, he got back to work, he was doing so well, for really looking well, feeling well, doing well at work, and life went back to normal, and everything wasn't forgotten, but was all put to one side, and we were feeling really happy that life was moving on and making plans for the future. Then one day, completely out of the blue, now this is a man who is a workaholic, who put work not before his family, but his work was very important to him, and he made sure that he did if he wouldn't do anything or he wouldn't expect somebody else to do it if he didn't do it himself. So this was him. So to book a holiday, we had to book a year in advance to then say, yes, we'll go away. He rang me up and said, Sue, I'd like to go and visit my parents. Let's go. I was like, okay, when are you thinking? Thinking he was planning 2 or 3 months down the line. And he was like, I want to go this week. I was off work because I worked nights. So we packed suitcases, sorted out the children to stay with my parents, and everything was going along nicely. And then the night before we left, he decided he wanted to take his best suit, shirt, tie, shoes. And I was, why are you taking that? Why would you want to do that? We're not going to a party. We're not going to any weddings or anything like that. Know where you need to dress up. And his words to me were, "You never know, I may need it." So, okay, put it to one side. He packed his suitcase and off we went. We arrived at his parents' on the Wednesday and went out visiting friends, family, and everybody was like, "Oh, how well he looked." He was telling everybody how good he felt, and life would, life was great, and he was so happy now that he was fully recovered and doing so well. Then on the Saturday, we were going out with friends, and we decided to go to the fun fair, which is a favourite place of mine. But we were going to take our friend's little boy because he'd not been for such a long time. So we toddled off to the fun fair, having a great time, wandering around, laughing and joking. And the plan was to then, once we'd been there, to go off to what used to be known as our local pub, which was run by some more friends of ours who happened to be the parents of the friends that we were with. So we were just one big, huge family. And it was so lovely. We were having such a lovely time seeing everybody again and, just really communicating and enjoying ourselves. And as we were walking around, all of a sudden, my friend Monica just turned and shouted at me. And she was like, "Oh my God, Bob's collapsed." Turned round, and there he was laid on the floor. Went across to him, knew instantly that he'd passed. But as you do, and I'm a nurse of 40 years, my clinical skills stepped in, and I started to do resuscitation. Now, not 2 minutes previously, we'd walked past a first aid person as well. And so Monica ran off to get the first aid and ring an ambulance. I was doing CPR when he arrived and took over. The ambulance then arrived and rushed him off to hospital, and we followed in the car. Got to the hospital and waited. My friend started to inform people, friends and family, what was going on. And then somebody came out and asked me what time he'd collapsed. So we sort of told him what time we thought it had been. And shortly after that, the doctor arrived and just said that they were so sorry. It had been over an hour and there was no more they could do. And Bob had passed away. So we went through all the processes that we had to do there. We were staying with his family. My family arrived. They brought my children to be with me. My brother and sister arrived, and we were all staying in this one house. And as you can imagine, I was going through my grieving and wasn't really aware of much of what was going on. But the one thing that I do recall and remember is that I kept saying to myself, please tell me he didn't suffer. Please tell me he didn't suffer. I didn't get a chance to tell him I love him. Please tell me that he was okay. And that was all I could think about through the days that passed, that he'd suffered. And I was just laid in bed on the third night. And it was the third night, and that has a huge significance for me. Even though I'm not religious and don't follow the Bible, I understand and I know the stories of the resurrection. And it was that came to me after I had this event happen. So there I was, laid in bed, asleep, to wake up to feeling as if somebody was in the room. This energy came in, and I looked around the room, and my mum and my sons were sleeping in the bed next to me, fast asleep, not a murmur, when I saw this light on the wall in the far corner. And at first I blinked and thought I was imagining it. And then this light began to glow and get bigger and bigger and bigger until it filled the whole of the wall. And I remember looking at my mum and the children thinking, well, surely, that this light must be waking them up. It's so bright, it's filling the room. But no, still fast asleep, gently snoring away to themselves. And there I was. And all I could feel was this amazing sense of presence and the tears were streaming down my face, but I felt so loved, so warm. And yeah, so I couldn't differentiate though between the tears. Were they tears of grief? Were they tears of love? I just remember this overwhelming sense of feeling comforted and loved, but crying at the same time. And then this figure started to walk towards me out of the light. And as this figure walked towards me, I could see him. He had a long flowing beard, long dark flowing hair, and a white robe on. And I, in that moment, I just didn't think. I just didn't know. It didn't even cross my mind to think who it was. I just was transfixed by this figure coming through the light in the wall. And as he looked at me, my perception of him was that he was the size of a giant, but he fitted in a normal sized door frame because this like arch doorway had appeared as well. And that was sort of puzzling my mind at the same time as I was like looking and asking what's happening. And then I saw that my husband, Bob, was laid at his feet. And that's why he then gave me this imagery of looking like he was a giant. But he bent down and he picked Bob up and held him in his arms as if you cradle a baby. And I just remember thinking, please don't hurt him. Why I would think that, I don't know. But it was something that I recall saying, please don't hurt him. And then I began to giggle because I looked and I could see this zip in the middle of Bob's chest. And this being, as what I'm going to refer to him at the moment, this being unzipped his chest, opened up, lifted his heart out, and I could see his beating heart in his hands. And he folded it into his chest and then put it back into Bob's chest, zipped him up, folded him up into his arms like this, and walked back into the light and then just disappeared. And in that moment, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that this had been an angel that had come to visit me and that Bob was safe, Bob was well, and that he had not suffered. And that led me onto my angelic path because that vision, every time I talk about it, it's as clear then, it's as clear now as it was then, when I can see and sense that visualization, that imagery, that being that came to me to let me know that he was safe. But it also started me on my angelic path. But of course, the end of this story is about the empty suitcase, in that when Bob was cremated, he wore the shirt, the suit, the tie, and the shoes that he brought with him, with the words, "You never know, I may need them." And I've never forgotten that. And my mother in law said to me afterwards, "Do you think he knew?" My response was, if he did, he didn't say anything, but certainly something within his intuition, his guidance, was telling him that he needed to be home where his family was, his parents were, because we were a close family. He was very close to his parents. And one of the things we'd laughed in sort of a black humour sort of way about was that if he did die, he wanted to be in Portsmouth, he wanted to be cremated, he wanted his ashes scattering on the family plot, and that's where he wanted to be. And we laughed and joked because I was like, well, how am I going to afford to get you there? Or how are your family going to afford to come to Portsmouth and then take you down, take you down there? So it was all a bit of, black humour, but it got us through what we needed to get through in that moment. Never for once thinking that it would actually happen. But what he did do was, he was home when it happened and he was surrounded by his family and his friends that he'd known for years and years and years. So when I travelled back to Hull after the cremation, I travelled back with an empty suitcase. And that has been my It's been the journey. It's what began me on Be the Journey. And Be the Journey is another part of where I am today. I have founded a Be the Journey Angel Oracle card. I've founded Be the Journey Angel Journals, which are available. And for me, when we step into our spiritual path, when we step onto that journey of finding that essence within us that is guiding and inspiring us to become who and what we're meant to be in life, it is about the journey that we take. And as I look back now over the years, I realized that I've had angelic experiences before that one, but never knew what they were because I hadn't stepped into that part of my journey. And I am so very blessed now that I'm in a position where I can share my angelic experiences. I can share my journey to help others, to help bring them to a place of understanding who they are, what they want to do in life, where they want to go. So the continuation of coming home from the empty suitcase, I then started to look at how to work with angels, what I could do to get into being somebody who can use the angelic energies, how they can help me, how they can help others. And I have been so blessed over these 20 plus years to meet and be inspired by beautiful men and women as guides and mentors. I've received so many gifts of mentoring over the years through the angelic energies, connecting me with these beautiful and loving people that have helped me, that I realized if there's one thing that I could and wanted to do, it was to help others who were in the same situation that I became in, because my journey didn't begin and end there. It continued. And 10 years down the line, I had another life changing experience where I was declared bankrupt. So I went from owning my own home, having 2 cars, having a relationship with a boyfriend at the time, to having to lose everything and move in with my parents, which was a blessing because I could so easily have been homeless. But I was very blessed that I had that, and we stayed with my parents. And again, the angels stepped in and helped me. I was looking to find somewhere to rent. I wasn't working. I'd gone into a depression. I just couldn't face the world. I'd felt, well, I was responsible. And because of that responsibility, I felt like I'd lost the over my children's head, who were teenagers at the time, and we had to start all over again. And I got to a point where I was looking to find somewhere to rent, found the most amazing home. I looked at it, couldn't afford it, walked away from it. 4 weeks later, it came back into my awareness, and I just trusted. I just said to the angels, I trust you to help me with this. Money began to flow in, and I was £1,000 short. And I was talking to a work colleague who'd asked me what was going on, who out of the blue and the kindness of their heart lent me the remainder of the money that I needed to rent the property. And I called him my earth angel. So for me, earth angels come in many different guises as well. I was also blessed to receive from another lovely earth angel a rose quartz crystal to help me with my grieving. Um, and because of that, that put me on my journey to study and learn about crystals, to become a crystal therapist, and to use them in the work that I do. And over the years, I've continued to be guided and inspired to follow certain modalities, to train in holistic therapies, um, NLP, hypnotherapy, Reiki, divine energy healing, crystals and colors and meditation, a whole gamut of things, but always with the initial intention that they were to help me on my healing process. because I believe that when we want to work with others and help others, we have to do our own inner work as well. And I've always said that I'm an experiential learner. So part of that experience was to be able to share it with others, was to experience it for myself. And even within my role as a nurse, I had certain times where I experienced what it was like to be a patient. So I understood how it felt for patients when they came into my operating theatre, how to care for them, how to look after them. And I've continued to bring that into the work that I do today on this spiritual path that I'm following, and the work that I do with the angels and the crystals. So the culmination of the empty suitcase and be the journey has brought me to where I am now, in a place where I am feeling so very blessed that I'm able to now help others from my own life experiences, from my energy intuition that I use. So I work intuitively with you, but I also call in the angels, guides, our spirit family to come in as well to help guide and inspire what's needed to help you if you're going through a coaching session with me. And all of this stemmed as well from a feeling and a time in my life where I was in certain situations where I didn't have the finances to be able to pay somebody to help me, to teach me, to guide me, to mentor me, to help me facilitate my own inner work. And in those moments, they were the moments when I was blessed to receive gifts from the universe, be it a mentor who would come and say, I'll work with you for free, a course that I would win, somebody else paying for something for me. So I've always felt so blessed in that way. And more recently, I've had that experience happen again. I've had two lovely mentors come and help guide me. And out of that, I had the awareness and the inspiration. I've always wanted to work with angels. I've always wanted to help others connect to and work with angels as well. And out of that experience, I was blessed about 2 weeks, 2 months ago now, to come out of a meditation and be told, open an angel school. So a little bit of me was like, really? Me? An angel school? And it was like, yes, you. So now I'm in the process. I've got some beautiful people helping me um, set the angel school up, get it ready for opening the doors in the very near future. And it's all starting to fall into place. And then I was still asking the question, why an angel school? Why me? And it was you, because of who you are, the work that you're doing. And then in another meditation, it came to me. They gave me my purpose, the reason why I'm setting up and running the angel school is because I know there are so many beautiful, lovely souls out there who are in the position that I was in all those years ago, where affordability was a question, it was a fact. We talk about our mindset around money, and yes, we do need to shift our mindset around money and open us up, because being spiritual and having money do go together. But I also appreciate and understand that on a practical term, that money may not be there and available. So the angel school comes in with the purpose of it being accessible and affordable on a monthly membership for you to be able to come in and receive angelic guidance, angelic wisdom, meditations, free courses, and then be able to have one-to-one sessions with me and in lives in the group that is part of the angel school as well. And when I had that inspiration that this was about making it affordable and accessible, my heart just sang. My heart just opened up and it just flew with that feeling of, yes, this is me, this is my purpose, this is what I'm here to do. But I also do offer other coaching packages as well. So there is the balance. There's making the Angel School available and affordable. There's also having the packages that I will be offering to coach with me, to work with me, to receive readings as well at different levels. So I suppose I'm embracing the whole package of what is available for me and to help others. And being here on the She Is Me conference as well is one of those absolute divine blessings that's come to me. Again, I saw the post that Lisa put out about this, and I scrolled past it. I was like, oh no, that's not for me. I can't possibly sit here and talk to however many people are out there in the world watching and present who I am and myself. But as the angels do, when they want you to do something, they bring it back into your awareness. And I was so blessed that when I went back into Instagram, for some reason, Lisa's post was still there, front and center, shining its light at me, saying, you can do this. So I applied with the knowledge that Lisa could have said yes and she could have said no. I'm very blessed. She said yes. And here I am presenting to you, speaking to you, and just sharing my story, sharing my love of the angels and how that they can help us. I could talk to you about all sorts of angelic experiences that I've had. But what I'd like to leave you with is my gift of paying it forward for being here on this lovely conference is to offer 2 individual sessions. They can be an angel reading or they can be an angelic um, energy intuitively guided coaching session. So there will be 2 of those available, and you can contact Lisa and she will put me in touch on how to deliver those to the 2 lucky people that receive these gifts. And that's just a very small part of what I can do as a way of paying forward for this wonderful event.